Good morning. I'm Mindy Finn.
And I'm Anthea Watson.
And we've been talking a lot about the importance of open data. And I know many of you are probably embarking on your own big data projects, but Anthea and I, over the last couple years, are working on a big data project that tackles problems with the cornerstone of our democracy, and that's voting. And even the simple question of, where do I vote? Data showed that in 2008, 1.9 million people didn't vote simply because they didn't have the right information. They didn't know where to go. The Voting Information Project was a partnership of a lot of organizations and folks, which you see up here, technologists, state election officials, the Pew Foundation. We're very fortunate to be working with Pew, who has really been funding and moving forward this project. And it was all, we were all reaching toward this goal, which would make it as simple as going to Google or Bing or your search engine and being able to, on election day or the time leading up to an election, be able to find your polling place. So our vision was extremely grand, and we admittedly were a bit idealistic. We said, okay, every state has this election data. They all have their own rules and their own bureaus and boards who own this data, but it's all there. So they should be able to open it up, put it in an XML format, create a feed, and through all of these feeds, we would have one full big data set of all of the addresses in the country mapped to voters, mapped to polling places. So we went to these states and we offered them the simple incentive, which was if we give you these tools, these widgets, to be able to, that you can use, instead of having to build these tools, you'll have this for your citizenry on your website for people to be able to find this information. Everyone would be really happy. We would all benefit, and it would be really great. And in 2009, working with Virginia as kind of a sample state, it worked really well. They opened up this data. We were fortunate. They were very innovative, a team over there. They put it in XML, and they embedded the widget on their official sites so people could find this information. In 2010, we had 25 states that provided these feeds. CNN, Facebook, Foursquare used this data, and so did Labor, so did Rock the Vote, so did Congressman Charles DeJoux, who was running for Congress in Hawaii, and even bit bloggers like Bungalow Bill. But it wasn't rosy all along the way.
No, it definitely wasn't. That's sort of the public story, but the part that never really got told was how really messy this project ended up being. Big data, especially sourcing data, is really, really hard. We ran into problems like election officials kept the data we needed on a Rolodex on their desk. We had problems where, some of this stuff was in people's heads. They just remembered, oh, so-and-so lives next to so-and-so, that means they vote here. It's hard to turn that into an XML format. So what we ended up using to create the data we needed for the rest of the 25 states was a lot of caffeine, a lot of sugar, and a lot of really, really hard work. So we had micro problems, but we also had a macro problem that Mindy and I started talking about, and we wanted to talk about a solution here at PDF. So one of the things that we've noticed is we've managed to poison the data ecosystem when it comes to polling place data. The Voting Information Project has this amazing data set that is really good, high-quality data, but you can't get it anywhere else because all the vendors that used to sell you this data, they've gone out of business. All of the people who used to have expertise in doing this and sourcing it for different nonprofits, those people don't do it anymore because they're relying on the Voting Information Project. That's a real problem.
So we realized once you remove the incentives, we questioned, how are you going to make this project sustainable? So we came up with this idea, which we'll talk about more later at our panel, and it's the idea of a data co-op.
So in community organizing, we talk about this idea of power over versus power with. So as organizers, if you are interested in getting organic vegetables into your grocery store, you could decide to boycott your grocery store until they stock what you want, or you could go and negotiate with your local farmers, and you could use power with to collectively use your money to get the farmer to sell directly to you. The Voting Information Project is definitely more in the model of organizing power over. We're going to election officials and we're asking them to give us our data. We wanted to create a model of collecting data that was more power with. So what we're doing with a group of people, some of whom are in this room and have been really helpful in the early discussions, is sourcing candidate data, who is on my ballot, by creating what we call a data co-op. So the idea is we would all collectively source this data. We would put it into a database with an API with keys. If you hit below a certain rate limit, you could access this data for free. But if you are some of the big players, the media companies, the CNNs, if you're the League of Young Voters, the League of Women Voters, and you're hitting our API a lot, then we're going to ask you to contribute either data or money into the ecosystem. So the idea being, if you're Fox News and you don't want to hire a whole bunch of interns to source this data yourself, you can just give us some money to help support the project. But if you're the League of Women Voters and you have all of these volunteers who are willing to help and do this work for you, you can put data in instead and get access to this API.
So whether it's big data sets such as every address in the country or your own big data project, we want to talk about key lessons from our effort, as well as hear from you about lessons maybe from your big data project, or take your questions, as well as talk about the data co-op idea, what you think of it, what challenges are, do you want to participate, and what the future of these big data projects is. And we will later. So again, I'm Mindy Finn.
I'm Anthea Watson.
And if you come to our session at 3:30 to 4:30, room 909, we'll talk more about Voting Information Project.
Thank you.